Welcome back to the Real News Network and our series of interviews with Bob Rae. Thanks, Bob.
Good to be with you.
So let's pick up the story. So now the Liberal Party executive has ordained Michael Ignatieff as its leader. Some people in the press and outside called it a bit of a coup against the process, meaning a process of a real election in the Liberal Party for a leader. At any rate, as you said, they made their decision, and you were stuck with it, and so was everyone else. Then what happens to the whole issue of the coalition government? Because the coalition government had quite a bit of support in Canada as a feeling like a fresh kind of politics.
The coalition had support, it had detractors, and it had a whole bunch of issues associated with it. And again, when Michael became the leader, it was a choice the party, if you like, the party executive, the party leadership had made with respect to where it thought things should go. Basically Michael made the decision that he didn't think there was sufficient public support for the coalition, because public support was pretty heavily divided across the political spectrum, and all the polls showed quite strong opposition to the idea in Western Canada. Quite strong support for the idea in Quebec, and sort of Ontario and the Atlantic provinces were a bit of a wash. I think Michael felt that that was not the basis upon which he wanted to form the government. And I mean, you could ask him, but I mean, I think that he made it pretty clear that he felt that he would have had to spend a ton of his time justifying the legitimacy of what had taken place and throwing the country into a political turmoil, because this whole issue of how minority governments are formed and how coalitions are formed it doesn't happen very often, but whenever it does, it does cause a sense of political and constitutional crisis to emerge. And I think he felt that given the severity of the economic crisis, given the growing challenge, and in fact the government's recognition that, whoa, wait, what we thought in the end of November, that's not true anymore. We're not in surplus, we're in serious deficit. We've got to respond and again, the momentum was moving across the world for governments to respond together. And I think Michael's judgment was that he thought that we would end up losing a lot of ground, and he would lose a lot of ground if we went into government under those circumstances. And that was a decision that he
a decision, I guess it's a little naive to think it would be anything else, but very much a partisan Liberal Party decision. There was a lot of discussion outside the partisan politics that in fact this coalition government would have been very good for the country, because it would have created an opportunity for a whole fresh approach to the crisis. I mean, you at one point, I think, after Stéphane Dion stepped down, where it was you were actually the spokesman for the coalition for.
Well, I mean, there was a gap, right? I mean, there was a vacuum there. I mean, the leader at that time. I mean, I guess my view is that the leader, if you want to make things work, you support the leader, and I supported Mr. Dion. So when he said the coalition, I said, fine, we'll work hard for that, and obviously because of my own background, I'd been a member of the New Democratic Party for a long time and knew a lot of the people in the party. I felt there was quite a lot of support in the Liberal Party for the idea of what we were trying to do, and in the broad country I felt there was support. But frankly, that's sort of like arguing about last year's snow. I mean, the decision was made, and I think on a perfectly fair basis by the new leader, to say, well, wait a minute, there's a whole lot of other issues.
Did it not bother you at all that this, first of all, was seen, there's a reassertion of the elite of the Liberal Party to get to politics as usual? This coalition government was opening up politics from some people's point of view for a fresh breath of air, to get back to what the politics we always know. And did you not? How did you feel about it personally? I know you're in a position now you have to support the leader, so I don't know how.
No. But it's also perhaps a difference in philosophy. I mean, I don't have, or a personal approach to things. I don't have a whole lot of time at this point in my life to worry about my feelings. It's not about my feelings.
No, but what's good for the country?
Well, yeah,
not just the Liberal Party.
What's good for the country is, in my view, is to replace the Conservative government. And once Michael had said, well, the way we're going to do it is a different way. We're not going to do it the coalition way. We're going to wait for an election, and we're going to have an election. We're going to defeat them that way. It's not up for me to turn around and say, well, that's wrong, or that's not the best way, or this way is here. History will judge all these things, and there will be lots of time to reflect on it. we're in the middle of the game right now. We're in the middle of a very challenging process to replace the Conservative government. And the way I do that as a working politician is to say, okay, let's go forward. Other people, the media, commentators, other people may sit back and say, well, you have lots of time for reflection, say, well, what about this and what about that? But I don't have the time to do that, and I also think it's a complete diversion from the real issue, which is how do we replace the Conservative government? There was an opportunity to do that one way. That opportunity was not taken. Fine. And now we have another opportunity. So let's make sure we take that one, and let's make sure we don't. But this point about division is very important, because I feel very, very strongly that one of the things that has hurt the country has been a division in the Liberal Party, which has been allowed to exist for a long period of time, which has aided the forces of the right. The forces of the right have been able to exercise power and take over power because the forces of the center and the center left and whatever allowed themselves to be divided. And we can't let that happen again.
But part of the fight that's been taking place in the Liberal Party is a very legitimate fight between the left and right of the Liberal Party. And that's part of what this whole convention and process over the last year was about. Like, where is the Liberal Party going?
If I may say so, that's sort of like your opinion.
Well, I can only give you my opinion,
Well,
but I will also give you some evidence and see what you think of it. And I'm going to do that in the next segment interview, because we're going to go back to what Michael Ignatieff thinks about foreign policy and what you make of that. And the question is, replace the Conservative Party with what?
Right.
And that will be the topic of the next segment of our interview with Bob Rae. Please join us on the Real News Network for that.
There are times when reality just asserts itself, in spite of the haze created by television news and entertainment. Sometimes crisis rips a tear in the fabric of myth and propaganda. Now a profound economic crisis has ripped asunder the American dream itself. Millions of people losing jobs and homes. They lack proper health care and any real sense of security. Since 2001, workers' wages have fallen or remained stagnant, even though worker productivity has risen almost 33%. By 2006, the top 1% of households were receiving 23% of all pre-tax income, more than double what it was in the 1970s. It's the greatest concentration of income since 1928. As unemployment rises, we need to know why this crisis is happening and what we can do to defend ourselves. Why are wages so low? Why is the society so laden with debt? Is it in ordinary Americans' interest to have $1 trillion military budget to project power across the globe? Corporate television news won't ask these questions, let alone try to find answers. Only a truly independent news network can tackle these questions with courage and with ordinary people's interests in mind. We need a news network that's independent of corporations, governments, and political parties. We need the real news. But there won't be a real news network unless we raise substantial funds right away. The current financial crisis has hit our funding hard. Together, we do have the power to turn it around. There are already hundreds of thousands of people watching the Real News every month. If everyone pitches in, we can build an internet and cable television network that will change the face of media forever. You can organize house parties, talk to friends at school and at work, send email blasts and spread the word. Distribute this video to everyone you know. Pick up the phone and call a few friends and suggest they visit therealnews.com. Invest just 10 minutes a day to ask friends and colleagues to join the campaign to create a truly independent source of internet and television news. Together, we can build this network. Just 50,000 people at $10 a month gets us to our first level of sustainability. You can help us reach this goal, and when we do, we'll move to television in millions of homes across North America. Help us reach an audience in the millions. Please contribute generously. Spread the word. Let's make the Real News television network a reality.
Your tax-deductible donation makes it possible. Please contribute at therealnews.com.